I just put the audio on to YouTube with a picture.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so what I wanted to focus on with mindfulness today is these other qualities that come wrapped up with mindfulness when the Buddha's teaching mindfulness to his disciples. And I mean, if you read the text, they don't read very well. It's an oral tradition, so it's much better to listen. But there's a lot of repetition, and there's this repeating refrain that just keeps saying, well, it kind of sets up the story. It kind of says, go and find a place to sit underneath a tree or in a quiet hut, away from people, and set your body erect and cross your legs and set up mindfulness in front of you. It's a strange phrase. I wonder if it's a bad translation. But I think you just bring mindfulness to the fore.
Yes.
Yeah, bring mindfulness to the foreground of your attention. And then, so this first word, they translate as diligent or ardent. Ardent is quite a nice word. It's got some emotional weight behind it somehow. Diligent but it is, the diligence of just kind of keeping an eye on things. I think maybe ardent might be too strong a word, because you can end up getting a bit over focused, but there is something quite nice about it. So ardent or diligent. And then there's mindful, what we translate as mindfulness or recollectedness. And then, which we know about, and then clearly knowing. I mean, his between sati and sampajanya, which is mindfulness and clear knowing, there's been some debate over the last 30 years about how they should be translated, and sometimes they swap. But so what we're looking for is a sense of being recollected, having some sort of continuity in our attention and presence, and then this sort of clarity and precision about knowing what's happening. I think the knowing and the presence, if you like, they're kind of like the core pair of columns that hold up the practice. And then there's diligence, and then there's one more thing that he says to do, and there's this lovely translation that says, put aside sorrow and lamentation with regard to the world, which is quite long-winded, but basically it means put aside anything you don't need to be doing right now. But it's quite nice that he kind of says, how accurate that translation is, I don't know. I think there are better translations, but sorrow and lamentation, stress, just put it to one side. And you can imagine somebody 2,500 years ago, if they have actually taken themselves off to the forest to meditate, or found themselves a quiet hut, then if you've got that far, it's probably not too strong an idea just to kind of put aside what you don't need to be doing for this half hour or this hour or this day when you're going to sit and meditate. But I think, just in terms of our little urban practice, I think mindfulness and clear knowing together, and and if you're doing the small dance, I mean, it's already part of it, because you're present, but you're also, maybe you're scanning through the body, maybe you're observing the movements of the body, and so you're knowing. That is the clear knowing element. But when we're sitting still, sometimes it's the sensations are subtler, and and each sensation, and then knowing the quality of each sensation. Is it a pleasant sensation? Is it an unpleasant sensation? Is it most of the time it's something in between.
Yes.
But to know that, and to know when a pleasurable mental feeling arises, you might start getting blissful feeling. So it's good to know that, but it's also good to know if, there are some stressful, anxious thoughts kind of steering you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's stress. Oh, I don't need to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, that's probably, so maybe we'll sit for about 40 minutes. Is that okay?
yeah.
So, and do move if you need to.
Yeah, I mean, at some point I usually get a little bit uncomfortable staying in one position, so I start moving a little bit.
So one of the things that you can clearly know, you can keep an eye on, is whether the body is restless, whether the mind is restless, or whether actually that's just uncomfortable and I need to move.
That's a
Sometimes it's hard to know the difference.
yeah.
Cool. Okay.
I'll mute myself so there's no noise from my side.
Okay. So setting up the posture in whatever way works for you. A sense of uprightness through the spine. Weight dropping through the body into the sitting bones, resting on the seat. Legs folded easily wherever they are, at whatever angle is comfortable. How is that contact with the ground, with the floor, with the seat? How is the weight distributed between sitting bones? Is one side heavier than the other? Is one leg feel more heavier on the floor than the other? And finding some interest in the detailed sensations of the legs. A subtle feeling of toes touching each other, perhaps. Texture of socks against feet. Leggings. Whatever else can be known in the sensations of legs. Perhaps some tension, perhaps even some relaxation. How is the pelvis? There's the sitting bones resting. How is the flesh of the buttocks spreading into the seat? iliac crests rising and forming that bowl shape. The sacrum and the tail, finding a good angle to rest. Is it possible to imagine unfurling and relaxing the tail as if it were a long tail, but it could just be allowed to drop onto the seat? And how is the spine? The large vertebra of the sacrum and the lumbar spine. How is the spine known? What kind of sensations make its presence known to you? Thoracic spine. Thoracic spine carrying the ribs. Cervical spine carrying the head. Mostly we know the spine from what's around it. The back muscles giving us clues about its shape and the curves. And the ribs hanging in a certain direction because of how the spine is arranged. And the movement of the ribs. How is the movement of the ribs? Is it free and easy? Is it a little held? Is there some tension that's no longer needed? How is the belly? Does the belly move with the breath? How are the shoulders? Is it possible to feel the blades of the shoulders on the back, distinct from the ball and socket joint, distinct from the clavicle? How are the arms? How heavy are the arms? Does one arm feel heavier than the other? Longer or shorter than the other? How are the arms resting? How are the armpits? The elbows, the wrists, the fingers? How is the neck and the throat? And the balance of the head? How is the skull? Is it possible to feel the weight of hair around the scalp? The weight of ears? Knowing what kind of expression is on the face? Is there still some tension there that's no longer needed? And how is the jaw? If we completely relax the jaw, the mouth will hang open. So how much tone is good? We don't want to be grinding our teeth, but we also don't want the mouth hanging open. What's the balance for you today? Eyes resting back deep into the sockets. Is it possible to imagine relaxing the optic nerve? Right at the back of the eye, so close to the brain, it gives a good message to that part of the body. And the breath is being breathed in the midst of all this sensation. There are sounds and smells and tastes and thoughts and feelings all going on. A whole universe of experience, sense impressions, constantly arising, constantly fading. Where is the breath happening? What sensations are being created by the breath? And what's the duration of each breath? Clearly knowing how long is the breath. Each breath is unique, creating slightly different sensations, lasting a slightly different time, perhaps even having a slightly different texture from the previous breath. Knowing the difference, breath after breath. Is it possible to stay aware of the whole body as you breathe in, sensitive to the whole body as you breathe out? Sensitive to the breath and the whole body. Diligent, mindful, clearly knowing, and putting aside whatever is not needed right Is it possible to enjoy knowing the breath? Whatever we become aware of in the body will tend to relax. We can also just give ourselves the instruction, just calming the body, breathing in, calming the body, breathing out. So the whole breath cycle becomes a cue to calm the body. And just when you thought you were getting nice and relaxed, seeing if it's possible to relax a bit more. If thoughts come, just let them fade in their own time. They're not a problem. They're just another facet of experience. We can keep our foreground attention with the body, with the breath, calming the body. As we continue, diligent, mindful, clearly knowing, putting aside whatever's not needed. It's becoming sensitive to the feeling tone of the sensations in experience. Whether that's sensations of the body mostly, or perhaps the quality of thoughts or feeling, pleasant or unpleasant sounds. So whatever sense experience is happening, it all has a quality of being pleasant or unpleasant, or mostly in between. So clearly knowing, feeling tone, particularly looking for, noticing any feelings of pleasure in the meditation. Physical sensations of pleasure from the relaxation, mental sensations of pleasure from attending fully to experience, perhaps. And if there are unpleasant or difficult sensations or feelings, we just have patience and kindness for them. They'll change in their own time. The pleasant feelings too will change in their own time. So sensitive to feeling, tone, breathing in. Sensitive to pleasurable feeling, tone particularly. Breathing out. Making sure that we know the pleasure that's available. Enjoying whatever is pleasurable. Having patience for whatever is difficult. And all the while, the breath is being breathed mindfully, knowing clearly. And just see if it's possible to settle into that deeper, calm, happy pleasure comes with continuously paying attention with the breath, enjoying the soft movements of the body, the pleasure, but also the calm, happy state that sits beneath that. Takes us a little deeper into the meditation, maybe. Might even be blissful. It's the natural state that you might find on a nice day in nature, and you can just sit and enjoy the warmth and the fresh air and the sounds and the breath. The feeling that one could stay there for a very long time in that pleasurable state. Always the breath being breathed, calm, pleasurable, happy, or at least patient, kindly attention. Let's see if it's possible to know the first moment of arising of any thought. Let the thoughts come, let them fade. No need to get involved with them, but see if it's possible to know how a thought arises, how it floats around, how it fades away. All the formations and the structures created in the heart and mind, arising, noticing they're arising, watching them move, watching them fade, without getting involved. We're just witnessing. Being sensitive to the arising of thoughts and feelings, breathing in. Sensitive to the arising of thoughts and feelings, breathing out. And there may be not much, or it may be very subtle. Patience. Enjoying the quiet. And is it possible to calm the heart and the mind a little more? Calming heart and mind, breathing in. Calming heart and mind, breathing out. And then rest, resting in presence, letting go of any effort to meditate. Take some moments to absorb the effects of the practice.